You may want to start contacting your tax clients because in this TaxSlayer Pro presentation, we'll discuss how you can help your clients check their withholding on their 2018 paychecks. For the 2018 tax year, the Internal Revenue Service is promoting their withholding calculator, and they're asking taxpayers to perform what they call a Paycheck Checkup. The IRS Withholding Calculator is online, and taxpayers who typically itemize their deductions on Schedule A of the Form 1040 are encouraged to log on and use the withholding calculator to make sure that the amounts withheld from each paycheck for 2018 will be enough to cover the tax liability at the end of the year. It might be a good idea for you to get in touch with your tax clients, have them drop by your office if at all possible, log on to the IRS Withholding Calculator. You can find that simply by Googling the IRS Withholding Calculator. And taxpayers who itemized before are probably going to be affected by the changes brought about by the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Taxpayers who itemize or who have itemized in the past should take a look at the IRS Withholding Calculator to make sure that their employers are withholding the proper amount of tax from each paycheck for their particular financial situation. And again, this is something that you can go over with your clients and help them out. Make sure that they're having enough withheld from each paycheck. Changes from the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act are effective in 2018 and are going to affect the tax returns that you will file for your clients in 2019. The passage of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act makes checking paycheck withholding amounts even more important. Now, if you don't know already, the new tax law changes will include an increased standard deduction, elimination of personal exemptions, very important, elimination of personal exemptions, an increased child tax credit, limiting or discontinuing certain deductions, and changing the tax rates and brackets. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act almost doubles the standard deduction and changes several itemized deductions. Again, something these two items very important that you may want to go over with your tax clients. Some taxpayers who formerly itemized may now find it more beneficial to take the new standard deduction amount. This could affect how much a taxpayer, your clients, need to have their employer withhold from each paycheck. Also, taxpayers who will continue to itemize their deductions should also check their withholding because of changes made by the new tax law. In addition, the IRS urges two-income families and those who work multiple jobs to complete the online calculation in order to verify that they're having the correct amount of tax withheld from each paycheck. The withholding calculator, the online withholding calculator, can help navigate multiple employer tax situations and determine the correct amount of tax for each employer to withhold. Taxpayers with more complex tax situations, such as two incomes or multiple jobs, may be more vulnerable to being under-withheld or over-withheld following the tax law changes. The IRS encourages a Paycheck Checkup as early as possible to help taxpayers check if they're having the correct amount withheld for each of their personal financial situations. The IRS also advises taxpayers, your clients, to complete their Paycheck Checkup as soon as possible so that if a withholding amount adjustment is necessary, there's more time for withholding to take place evenly throughout the year. Your clients may have some catching up to do, depending on their financial situation. If you and your tax clients wait, this means there'll be fewer pay periods in order to make any corrections, which could have a larger impact per paycheck and a larger impact on the tax return. Having too little tax withheld could result in an unexpected balance due or a penalty, or both, at tax time in 2019. Adjusting withholding after a paycheck checkup can also prevent employees from having too much tax withheld. With the average refund at around $2,800, some taxpayers might prefer to have less tax withheld up front and receive more in their paychecks. Let's talk about using the IRS Withholding Calculator. As taxpayers enter their data into the withholding calculator, they can indicate whether they're taking the standard deduction or whether they're itemizing. If they're itemizing, they'll need to enter estimates and best guesses of their deductions for 2018. The withholding calculator will apply the new law to these amounts when figuring the taxpayer's suggested withholding. If at all possible, taxpayers should have a copy of their completed 2017 tax return on hand when using the withholding calculator. And again, this is something that you can help your clients with. Last year's return will help in estimating the amount of income, deductions, adjustments, and credits to enter into the withholding calculator. Taxpayers will also need a copy of their most recent pay stubs. These pay stubs are necessary in order to compute the employee's withholding so far for this year. Calculator results depend on the accuracy of the data entered. If a taxpayer's personal financial circumstances change during the year, he or she should input the new information into the withholding calculator to check whether the current paycheck withholding should be changed or modified. Employees can use the results from the IRS Withholding Calculator to help determine if they should complete a new W-4, Employees Withholding Allowance Certificate, and, if so, what information on the W-4 needs to change. If your tax clients need to adjust their withholding, taxpayers and employees who need to complete a new Form W-4 should submit the form to their employers as soon as possible. The total number of allowances on number 5, on line item number 5, may have to change. Employees with a change in personal circumstances that reduce the number of withholding allowances must submit a new Form W-4 with corrected withholding allowances to their employer within 10 days of the change. As a general rule, the fewer withholding allowances an employee enters on the W-4, the higher their tax withholding will be. Let's look at that again. The lower the number, the fewer withholding allowances an employee enters on the W-4 on line 5, the higher the tax withholding per paycheck will be. Entering a 0 or a 1 on line 5 of the W-4 means that more tax will be withheld per paycheck. Entering a larger number means that less tax will be withheld per paycheck, less withholding. This could result in a smaller tax refund or potentially a balance due on the return. Let's take a look at the IRS Withholding Calculator. I've entered IRS Withholding Calculator in Google. I'm going to click on the first hit that I get from Google. This takes me to the IRS Withholding Calculator page. I'm going to scroll down and simply click on the blue button indicating the Withholding Calculator. And notice the first question I'm asked is, what filing status will I use on my 2018 return? I'm going to select single. No one else can claim me as a dependent. I'm going to hit continue, and we'll just enter some fictitious information into the withholding calculator. The number of dependents I'm going to claim on my return will be 1. I don't have any child and dependent care credits, no earned income tax credit, so I'm going to click the continue button, move on to the next page. Now I'm asked to enter gross wages or salary I expect to receive in 2018. I'll enter $45,000. And next I'm asked to enter total federal income tax withheld to date. I'll enter $2,500. The federal income tax withheld from my last salary or last paycheck. I'll enter $100. and we'll say I get paid every 2 weeks. No non-wage income, I'll click continue. I'm going to use the standard deduction. I'm going to say that in this case the standard deduction of $12,000 is going to be more than my total itemized deductions. I'll hit continue. And here I'm told that based on the information that I entered, my income tax for 2018 will be $3,273. If I don't change my current withholding, I'll have $3,900 withheld and I'll have an overpayment on my 2018 tax return. So it's really that simple. Now, if I needed to change my W-4, I could download a W-4 by clicking on that link. And notice that I was never asked for any personal information, no name, no address, no social security number on that web page. The IRS Withholding Calculator, again, does not ask for any personal ID information, such as a social security number, name, address, or any bank account numbers. The IRS doesn't save or record the information entered into the calculator. The IRS won't send emails related to the withholding calculator to your clients or the information entered. Again, we encourage you to get in touch with your clients, go over the withholding calculator with them. It'll make you more valuable to your clients and they'll really appreciate it. We want to thank you for attending this TaxSlayer Pro presentation.